Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. One of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we have probably in my 41 years on this earth, the most exciting Bears non-playoff win ever. We have just a wacky, wild baseball season finish, and some Blackhawks and Bulls stuff to talk about. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. Love hockey, love going to see live hockey, have a family, find it very financially restrictive? Well, perfect solution. Head on over to icehogs.com. Located less than 90 minutes from the city limits. It is a fantastic time for the whole family. So head on over to icehogs.com, get yourself hat, shirt, jersey, tickets, and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Alex, I don't know how to process all of the feels that I have right now.
Yeah, there's a lot. There is definitely a lot. There's nervousness, there's excitement, there's readiness, I guess. It's all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, every single sport, there is something big going on.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Even if there's preseason news, and unfortunately there's some bad preseason news, if you know what I'm talking about, but I mean, there's something going on. All my teams are active at some level right now.
Yeah, I want to just talk quickly Blackhawks. I wasn't planning to talk to him. I was going to try to have a guest on this week, but I didn't have a chance to reach out. Maybe next week I'll try. Chris Block, he actually covers the Ice Hog for the Committed Indian. I've had him on a few times. He's a really fantastic guest and has a huge following as far as hockey people go. And I want to talk to him a little bit more about expectations for this season. But I guess the thing that's hanging over the entire Blackhawks heads and season is one, Corey Crawford.
Well, we're seeing him in practice. Obviously, there's videos posted of it, but it's pretty obvious that he's not going to be ready for a while based on the comments that we've heard.
Yeah, and it's everything from the Blackhawks has been such a black box, such a mystery, trying to decipher comments, trying to figure out the double talk, playing. How long did we play? Where is Corey Crawford? Nobody even knew where he was. It led to wild speculations. It's seeming now that it was related to concussions, and he still isn't fully back to health. He's talking about possibly practicing, but who knows before he's ready to play in a game, because he hasn't played hockey in almost a year? Was it like,
yeah, around there. I mean, he went on IR for good, last December, January? It was in the middle of the season.
So, I mean, it's going on a year. It's going to take him time to get back, to be on.
Especially with concussions, that's a serious thing.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's a lot of flux. The Blackhawks seemingly didn't solve any of the problem, the major problems that they had last year, which is lack of backup goaltending and, lack of star power, top four defensemen. And I just don't know what to expect from this season. And, is it just going to be young guys step up and Corey Crawford is healthy? Is that the expectation?
Well, right now, I think it's safe to say that young guys can step up. I think that's a legit expectation. But when it comes to Corey Crawford, I don't think you could have much expectation right now. We don't know much. We don't think that there's going to be a, a solving of this anytime soon. Honestly, I wouldn't have my hopes up for this year right now. Now, if Corey Crawford gets healthy and everyone plays to the level of where we want them to, then things may be different in a good way. But if you look at a list of goods and bads with the Blackhawks and unknowns, you can look and identify which one belongs in each column easily right now. Unknowns, Corey Crawford, and I guess you could almost say Jonathan Toews. And again, last year, Jonathan Toews put up respectable numbers, but for the Gabler player that he's been for most of his career and, what he's making, they weren't really standout numbers. And the other thing is, Brandon Saad bounced back. I think if you look at those two unknowns, Toews and Saad, I think it's very likely that those two things can be better. I really do. Then you have the definite goods. You have Patrick Kane. You have Alex DeBrincat. You have Nick Schmaltz. Those are really talented guys right there. Artem Anisimov is a very solid guy to have at center, good veteran. So you got some goods there. Your weaknesses. Your defense is not good. Keith and Seabrook, we know the story with them. Once great, now just old. Can't really move as much anymore. And they're not going to get younger as time goes on, obviously not. Your backup goaltender right now is Cam Ward, and so far in the preseason has not looked good, and his numbers the past years have not looked that good. You also don't have much scoring depth. You go past the first few lines, there's not much depth there.
And your face-off, your ability to win face-offs at the dot, not good.
No, it's not. It's really not. Obviously, Jonathan Toews is good at that kind of stuff, but you don't have a lot of that. So that's a problem.
No, and statistics will show you that how important being able to win a face-off consistently is. And if you think about it, how many playoff games have the Blackhawks lost over the years during the window that they could have won had they been able to flip the face-off ratio.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's become a problem progressively over the past few years, and obviously it's not looking like it's going to get much better, unless someone, plays out of their mind, but, I don't really count on that on being much better. I will say this, there's one more thing I will put in the good column for the Blackhawks. It's probably, I would say, the farm system. They got some nice prospects. It's not like they're unbelievably loaded, but they do have some nice prospects.
Yeah, I mean, it's just getting everybody up to where they need to be. And I'm not going to lie, is last year, 2 seasons ago, the Ice Hogs were not a great team. And the players that they had down there, they had talent, just weren't playing well, and they weren't developing guys. And they made a coaching change and a philosophy change, and it seems like they're trying to develop players more, which is leading to a better Ice Hogs team. And hopefully it leads to better player development for the Blackhawks in the long haul.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be especially important now because Victor Ejdsell is going to be starting with Rockford, and that's, I think, a key prospect that's going to be coming up. We saw him a little bit in the preseason, and a lot of people said, oh, is he going to make the roster coming out of camp? It's pretty obvious that he still needs some work to do in the minors, which is fine. You want to get him right. But yeah, I mean, there's a number of prospects that you're going to be looking at to fill in key roles in the next few years, and you're going to want them to develop right. I mean, there's no question about that. You also got guys like, look at Colin Delia. Here's a question for you. Do you see Colin Delia ever getting significant playing time this year if Corey Crawford is not healthy and Cam Ward is just bad? What's your opinion on that?
I mean, if Corey Crawford is not healthy, which I think it's safe to assume that he's not going to be healthy, at least to start the season, and Cam is as bad as he's looked in the preseason, then it's a good possibility.
I mean, he is going to be. He is a guy that people are looking at to be important for the future. So, and I mean, do you really think that? Oh, what's his face? The other goaltender. Why am I blanking on his name? The guy we got in the trade with Saad last year.
Forsberg. I mean, yeah,
yeah.
No, Anton Forsberg.
Anton Forsberg. Yeah, I don't know why I blanked on his name. You know, he didn't look all that great last year, and he's probably going to be the backup to Ward when Crawford's not playing, I would assume.
I think that's the assumption that we're going on, because you have to assume that Corey Crawford is not going to start the season on the active roster. He's going to be IR to start the season.
Right. So, I mean, last year, Anton Forsberg, 35 games played, 322 goals against average. That's not very good. Oh no, sorry. It was 297, 322. That was adjusted goals against average. So, 297, just regular goals against average. But, you know, he had some very big ups and downs last year. And, you know, maybe hopefully this year he can make a little bit of an improvement as a backup. You want something a little better, but it's going to be hard when you don't have a very good defense.
I agree, but the Blackhawks have had a good history of being able to develop goaltenders.
No doubt.
And so you just hope that having an off season with the Blackhawks, you're able to shore a few things up and improve a little bit. But you know, honestly, it doesn't matter the situation. If Crawford is not healthy, this team is going to live and die with Crawford's health.
Oh, no question. I was thinking about this the other day. Look at the entire Western Conference. You can easily name 5 teams better than the Blackhawks right now. The Predators, the Jets, the Sharks, the Knights, Minnesota. I mean, right there, they're all better than the Blackhawks. And you could probably add St. Louis on top of that.
Yeah, you got to add St. Louis there.
Yeah. I mean, look how easily you could name teams right now better than the Blackhawks. Obviously, you got to play the season, and things can happen. Wacky things do happen. But, I mean, they're not the cream of the crop anymore, obviously. So if they really do want to make the playoffs, like you said, you got to have Corey Crawford, and a lot of things have to go right for the Blackhawks. A lot of things have to go right.
The thing is, though, they still have the talent that they can. I mean, although all the teams you mentioned are better than the Blackhawks, they're not so much better that the Blackhawks, if they play to expectations, the Blackhawks can beat any of those teams.
Well, the way I would see it is, let's say the Hawks, they get Corey Crawford back eventually, they have a solid season, they make the playoffs. If they go into the playoffs with a fully healthy squad, then I'd say, okay, you may not be favored, but you do have a chance here. So that's kind of the way I look at it. I mean, the playoffs can be such a crapshoot. I just worry about getting there. I'll be completely honest with you. There's part of me that thinks this team is going to be really bad, even though there is a lot of talent on it, but it's hard to say. You look at last year, they finished with a record of 33, 39, 10, 76 points. Not good. You got talent on paper, but there's going to be a lot of things that are going to have to be better than last year. Taves and Saad, as I said. Kane, you want him to have a little bit of a better season than last year. It still wasn't bad at all, but it wasn't like the few years before that when he was the MVP. You got your young guys contributing. And if the defense, I know it's not going to be good, but if it could just be just serviceable. If it's serviceable and your goaltending is decent, then you have a chance. But if it's not serviceable, forget it.
I mean, there's things that you can get better. You're right. Kane can be better. Saad has to be better. Taves has to be better. A lot of your forwards all have the capability of being better. It's the defense. Is Seabrook and Keith, can they be better? Is there room for improvement? It's not like they're going to get faster. So I just don't know what you can expect unless somebody takes a big step forward and they're able to take on their Seabrook and Keith's roles and move those guys down so they're not your top minute defenseman. Then yeah, you can improve. Even though they're eating up a lot of your salary, you can improve by limiting their minutes, limiting their ice time against really fast scoring lines. Or if somebody takes a step up and you can pair them with them to mask some of the speed deficiencies that they have. But that's a big if. On the offensive side, a much more manageable if. On the defense side, it's a big if. And, the Blackhawks realize this, and the way that they've been drafting has pointed to the fact that they need to improve and they need younger and they need more cost-effective top four defensemen. But we're not at the point where we can have expectations of those young players. So there's a case that the Blackhawks could beat anybody, but you're right. The probability, the possibility, absolutely there. The probability, not that great.
I think that's the right thing to say right there. We're not saying it's definitely going to be bad, but I think that there's a lot of signs pointing to things could be pretty bad. I'm looking at the current roster right now, and this is based on Hockey Reference, and you look at your defensive guys. Obviously, you have Keith and Seabrook, no question there. You have Brandon Davidson, 27 years old. He's a newcomer this year. Was on the Islanders last year, as well as Edmonton and Montreal. So he's been with several teams, several years.
That's always a sign of a good defenseman.
Yeah. So don't really know much else to say about him. You got Gustav Forsling and Eric Gustafsson. You hope they could be decent. Right now, Henri Yukaharu is technically listed here, but he's 19 years old and he's got some ways to go. So, but he will be important for the future. Connor Murphy, Jake Massey. Yeah. And Murphy's hurt. Keep that in mind. And Gustav Forsling has an injury too. He had surgery on his waist. Yeah. It's gonna be rough. So can we get Cam Ward some can we just I don't know.
Can we set up some cardboard dummies in front of him so at least to deflect shots?
Can we pile up
a wooden cutout of Duncan Keith that just slides on a slider across the ice just to deflect things?
It's not even him in uniform. It's it's him during the off season during one of the cup runs, and he's got a bottle of champagne and wearing a crappy t-shirt.
No, it's like him from a photo shoot. So he's got his full pads on from the waist up, and the bottom down he's wearing shorts and flip-flops.
Oh yeah, there you go. There you go. What you do is you take a lot of the ice shave. When you skate, you create the snow and it builds up. Yeah. You pile that by the goal just to try to stop the puck. Oy vey. Here's the thing. If you had the Keith and Seabrook of their prime, then you could look at this team and say, yeah, I'd say they have a decent chance. You know what I mean? That's how much of a difference those two made when they were in their primes. I mean, it goes to show how good they once were.
Yeah, but maybe John Lackey needs to come out and talk with this team.
Hey, he attended the game the other night and they won, and he gave the crowd a cheer. I don't know if you saw that. He had a drink in his hand. He raised his glass to the crowd. That was
Did you
great.
see the picture that his wife tweeted out of them on the private plane to the game?
I did.
He looked so confused on what an iPad was or how to use it. He's like, what is this thing? He's like, give me some chaw. I don't need that funky contraption. That newfangled thing.
They're going to put John Lackey out there to be an enforcer. I'm sorry, sir, but Spurs are not allowed on skates.
He's already got the hair.
Yeah, really. He could grow a nice playoff beard.
He's got the hockey hair.
Yeah. I think he'd be a heck of a hockey player. Why is there jaw spit all over the ice?
Sir, you can't have those.
Imagine
you can't have those coconuts on the ice. It's not coconuts. That's buttercup.
I want to play a little Blackhawks game with you. Are you ready for? You want to play a game? I got a game for you.
All right.
Okay. Over under. Why don't we play a little over under? That sound good?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'm basically I'm gonna basically be talking about the guys that were playing last year, none of the new guys, even though the new guys are just Cam Ward and Chris Kunitz. Those are like the only real additions. So I'm gonna mainly talk about guys that we had last year. So the first question is Brandon Saad, over under 20 goals.
I'm going to be optimistic, and I'm going to say over.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to be over,
Yeah,
but I'm gonna go with over just to be optimistic.
Okay, that's fair. He had 18 last year. I think if all goes right, he could have about 24. That'd be nice. Okay. Over under. Let's go. Do the same thing, but for Jonathan Toews. 20 goals, over under.
Over.
I would agree. Patrick Kane, over under 80 points.
Under.
Under, okay. Alex DeBrincat, over under 60 points.
I'm going to say over.
Okay. Confidence in the cat, I like it. I like it a lot. Nick Schmaltz, over under 25 goals.
I'm going to say push. I'm going to say right on there.
Okay. All right. I definitely take that from him. 21 years old last year. He had 21 goals and 31 assists. And there was a lot of times last year where he didn't shoot the puck. So he definitely has the ability to be over that. Okay. Brett Seabrook, over under 80 games played.
Under.
Okay. One more. Let's do one more. I gotta think of a good one here. All right.
Duncan Keith, average minutes.
Oh, okay. So, not total, just average.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do 22 minutes.
What did he average last
23 and a half.
I'm going to go, and you said 21?
I said 22, I think.
Okay, under.
It was either 21 or 22. I can't remember, but
I'm still going to go under either way.
All right.
I think it's going to be like 20, between 19 and 20.
Okay, yeah. Last year he had the most, which is really no surprise because he's Duncan Keith. He's been leading that category for years. Do you know who was in second? He didn't play 80 games, but he played in 55.
Zdeno Chara.
No, I'm just talking on the Hawks.
Oh, on the Hawks.
Yeah, just on the Hawks.
Seabrook?
Nope. He was third. And this is not counting goaltenders. Keep in mind, this is not counting goaltenders.
Oh, wait. Overall minutes? Or just defensemen?
Defenseman. Sorry, I should have clarified that.
Oh. I don't know. Who was
it? It was
second?
Jordan Osterley.
Really?
Mhm.
Huh.
2031. Duncan Keith was 2350, not 23 and a half, 2350. Then it was 2031 Jordan Osterley, Brett Seabrook 2012, and then Patrick Kane was 2011, Jonathan Toews 1941, if you want to get into forwards.
Huh.
So yeah, there you go.
That's interesting. Yeah, we could go dig in more next week but I kind of want to just quickly talk. I wasn't going to talk about Bulls either, but we had an incident.
Pretty bad one.
Yeah, Larry Markkanen, our fledgling superstar, the centerpiece of our organization, got an elbow injury and is going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks.
And it was a shooting one too.
Yeah, that's really not good. I mean, what did I expect from the Bulls this year? I expect them to be competitive, but they're not going to go to the finals. So it's not like this is going to hurt their chances of going forward. It'll just help them with a draft pick, a couple spots here or there, but it just sucks as far as player development and developing team chemistry, because that's what's really going to hurt. I mean, if this happened in the middle of the season and the end of the season, I think it's less detrimental because you at least get that time where everyone starts feeling each other out and figuring out how they're going to work. But it is what it is. We just got to deal with it. It's 6 to 8 weeks. So roughly he's going to miss the first month or so of the season, and hopefully he comes back 100%.
I mean, he's such a pivotal part of this Bulls' future. Obviously, in terms of the season, you're not going to be contending for a championship this year. You could be contending for the playoffs because the East is so bad, but, at this stage in the rebuild, you're still not going to be legit contenders, even if you make the playoffs in a terrible East. So it's not as much looking at the season in terms of record. It's just the fact that he's such a pivotal part in this rebuild and you want him to keep developing. So yeah, like you said, hopefully he just comes back healthy eventually in a few months.
Yeah, can't do anything else about it.
Nope.
Maybe it opens up some playing time for some of the other players they have, but ultimately you need Laurie back, and you need Laurie to be 100% and continue his development arc, because he's your best chance of winning an NBA title. Absolutely. We'll talk more Bulls, next week or the week after. I like I said, weren't going to really talk anything until, after a little bit of the preseason, but this was kind of major news, so I had to at least talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which leaves us to the Bears and the Cubs. Where do you want to go first?
It's really on my mind right now, so let's go 163. Let's talk about it.
So I think last week we said the biggest fear for the Cubs, or, the biggest worry, was that the Brewers would catch up to the Cubs and there would be a tie, in which case they would have to play a 163 game to determine who goes to the playoff, or who wins the division and who has to play the wild card. In which case, worst case scenario there is that the Cubs lose that game, that one game, 163, and then have to play a wild card game to have the right to go play Milwaukee in a series.
When you put it that way, this game looks even more important because no matter what, there will be tomorrow after Monday. But here's the thing. You have two tiebreakers right now. You have Colorado and the Dodgers playing each other, and you have the Cubs and the Brewers. The Cubs bullpen is just completely gassed. I mean, it was torture watching today's game, fighting through every inning. And you don't have Stroop, you don't have Morrow, you can't trust Carl Edwards Jr. right now. Your best guy is Jesse Chavez, and then after that, maybe Jorge De La Rosa or Justin Wilson. Those are your top guys. Imagine if Colorado wins and the Brewers win. That would mean that the Cubs, if they lose, would have to face a Dodgers team that's got a lot of firepower. Now, the same thing can be said for the Rockies, but boy, playing in that wild card game against either team would be tough. The good news would be that wild card game will be at Wrigley Field if they have to play it, so there's no traveling.
Yeah, if the Cubs game tomorrow is in Chicago, and
yes,
and if they lose, that wild card game is also in Chicago. So no matter what, their next two games are in Chicago. Because if they win that game, they'll also host the winner of the wild card in Chicago. So guaranteed the next two games are at Wrigley. You just hope that they're both victories.
And you hope you could get some time off. I mean, that's one of the biggest things. And here's the thing. If you lose to the Brewers, then you know you're going to have to play them again, like you said. And that Brewers team right now, they are firing on all cylinders. They are getting every single break. They're not afraid of anything. I mean, it's unbelievable what they've done.
What's unbelievable, and I just want to take a step back, is so we came into the last day of the regular season, and the Rockies and the Dodgers were tied for the division lead in the West, and the Cubs Brewers were tied for the lead in the Central. And so it was a clutch game for all four teams, and the Cubs had the closest game and they won 10-5. The Dodgers won 15-0. And you know what? The Dodgers have a right to be mad because the Nationals were playing the Rockies and they chose not to pitch Max Scherzer.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a doozy right there.
Yeah, I'd be pretty salty about that too. I mean, I'm already kind of salty about the Brewers, but hey, they've been playing well, and even though they've gotten some lucky breaks, they've been playing really well. You got to give them credit.
But really quickly, you know what team we didn't mention in all this?
The Cardinals?
Yeah, because they're not in the playoffs. Adios, muchachos.
Now that is something I can really be happy about right now. Okay, did you see, I think somebody tweeted about it, but I'm going to look it up now. Did you see like the playoff projections for the Cardinals the past week?
No. Has it just dropped precipitously?
It went like from almost guaranteed they're going to make it to just... Okay, here we go. St. Louis, September 23rd, 80%. And then just it was literally a straight downfall. If you go on MLB.com and you look at the graph, it is just a straight down. It's almost a vertical line. It's crazy. So 80%.
I don't want to see the Cubs. I don't want to see the Cubs.
Oh, it's been all the way up there the whole season.
But yeah, their chance to win the division was like 80-something% a couple of weeks ago, like 87% or 93%. And then now they're they have they have to play the Brewers tomorrow in a 1-game playoff.
Yeah, here's the thing. When the magic number was 5, and that was, back a week ago, all we said was the Cubs have to win 3-4 games and they'll be in. And they did that. But the Brewers didn't lose. And that's why we're here.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about, like, if the Brewers played, like, 750 baseball, which is really good baseball, and the Cubs played, sub 500 baseball, that the Cubs will still win. And the Cubs did their part, but the Brewers just absolutely steamrolled. They steamrolled the Cardinals, and the Cardinals it wasn't like the Cardinals had nothing to play for. The Cardinals needed to beat the Brewers to make the playoffs,
right.
And they got steamrolled.
I mean, everyone's talking about, the Cubs, they lost their division lead. The Cardinals had an 80% chance of making the postseason just a few days ago. I mean, that's a collapse. Now, I get it. There were some really frustrating Cubs losses. The one yesterday to Miles Mikolas was maddening, like tear your hair out maddening. And some of those games against the Pirates, really bad losses there. But overall, I'd say the Cubs have done their job. It's just the Brewers were flawless. Everything went their way.
Yesterday's game was the epitome of frustrating because Cole Hamels pitched a good game. And the Cubs gave him nothing.
And how many warning track fly balls? Oh.
I mean, if the breeze could have given us a little help, we would have won that game, won the division, and then we would have been off for the next couple of days. But you know what? That's the way things go.
That's baseball.
Think about those starts where we started Luke Farrell and he had like a 900 ERA, and not a big deal because they're middle of the season games. What are you going to do? Blah, blah, blah. Those aren't going to come back and haunt you. Well, there's a lot of things you can look back on and been like, man, what could we have done differently?
It's so funny because you could look back at both perspectives. You know what I mean? You could say, damn, if we could have done this, this, and this, we'd be here. But you could also say, we're lucky to have done this, this, and this, or we wouldn't be here. You know what I mean?
How many games in a row have the Brewers won? 6, 7?
Something like that. So, 6, plus another one in Pittsburgh. Then they lost before that, and then they won that first game. So, there you go.
Who are they starting tomorrow?
That hasn't been announced yet. We're starting Quintana. I know that. They said that tonight they're going to announce it. My guess is going to be Jhoulys Chacin because it's his spot in the rotation and he's been good. But, maybe they go with someone different. Maybe they go with, I don't know. Oh, what's his face? Chase Anderson. But I'm...
Bullpen start.
Yeah, really. Great counsel. Bullpen start. But I'm going to guess it's going to be Jhoulys Chacin, which is not really good news for the Cubs because, like many other Brewers pitchers, Jhoulys Chacin came to the Brewers and turned into an ace this year, somehow.
Well, I mean, both pitchers have been pitching well, and other than yesterday, the last few games, both offenses have been clicking, so something's got to give.
I worry about the bullpens. That's what I worry about.
Hopefully, Christian Yelich pulls another where he doesn't want to play against the Cubs and just sits on the bench.
Yeah, you want to talk about an unreal performance the past few weeks. Really, this whole second half. I think it's safe to say he's locked up the MVP.
And I can't even argue. I mean, what argument do I have? Has Javi Baez had a great season? Yes. Is Javi Baez a superior defender? Yes. But does Christian Yelich deserve MVP? Yes.
Yeah.
All of those things are true.
Absolutely.
Baez is the Cubs MVP, and the Cubs theoretically could still go to the World Series and win it. It's a tougher road, and you don't get there without Javi Baez being Javi, but it's Christian Yelich's award, and he's earned it, and good for him.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's not really that important. What's important is winning ball games and going on a playoff run. That's really all I'm concerned about.
Honestly, that's all. Tomorrow, they just got to win tomorrow, and then, they have a day off. But you know what? If they don't win tomorrow, that's going to be like 44 games in like 46 days or something ridiculous like that.
Yep. Yeah, pretty crazy. Okay, I'm not trying to be, the Brewers got lucky, I'm really not trying to be that guy, but how in the heck did they get to play the Tigers at the end of the season?
I don't know. Did anybody expect
just luck of the draw?
Yeah, I mean, and you know what? And the thing is, were the Tigers expected to be as bad as they were? I don't think so. I mean, I don't think anybody expected them to be good, but I don't think anybody expected them to be as bad as they are. And you know what? They gave, other than today, the first two games, they gave the Brewers everything they could handle.
Yeah, I mean, that game-winning home run that just got over the wall off the glove of Castellanos, that was a close one. The game the other night, last night, was a close one. Yeah, they did give them a run for their money, but obviously the Brewers are a much better team. They were able to beat them. But yeah, I guess it's just how it happens. You can't do anything about it.
I mean, I think we all knew going in that you can't rely on another team losing and backdooring your way into the division win. Is you have to go and take it.
No, they had to win out to win in 162.
And the Cubs just didn't do it, flat out, because they didn't do what they were supposed to do. And they had a very good record this year, but to the Brewers' credit is they had an unreal second half of the season.
The key to this race, if there's one game, because I could look back at a lot of losses and just say, well, they were losses, it's going to happen. There's just one loss that made all the difference. And if the Cubs don't win tomorrow, this game is going to haunt me for a while. I've probably said it on this show again before, but I'm going to say it again. That first game in Milwaukee, you had those last two series when they were up 3-2. Rizzo hit the home run off Hader, and they gave up the lead and lost on a walk-off. That game right there kept the Brewers alive in the division race. You win that game, the race is over. That's the one game I always go back to.
It's a fair statement what you said. It's very fair, and there's a lot of things that the Cubs can kick themselves about, and that's got to be one that they probably kick themselves the hardest about. But that's in the past. Is you got to look forward to tomorrow's game, and it's. The good thing is it's not an elimination game, but they're coming to your town. They're coming to your house, and they need, you are you have the crown. They need to take that crown from you, and you can't just let them come into your town and take that crown from you. So it's a big game. It's not a do or die, but it's as close as you get to a do or die.
Yeah, there's no doubt it's very important. And it's not that I don't have faith in the Cubs, because I keep telling myself, have faith in this team. They didn't have their most important player for a long time. They didn't have Yu Darvish most of the season. They haven't had their closer the entire second half. They've had a little nagging injury after nagging injury. A lot of stuff didn't go right. They still won 95 games. It's not that I'm nervous about how the Cubs are going to do. It's just that Milwaukee right now is playing on a whole other level, and they are not going to let anything get to them. It's almost like what the Cubs did to the Cardinals in 2015. You know, the Cardinals were a 100-win team, and it's not like they didn't have confidence in themselves, but the Cubs were just this young, upcoming team that wasn't going to let anything stop them, and they were able to beat the Cardinals. Granted, they ran out of gas in the NLCS, but you know what I mean.
Absolutely. The Cubs just came up there and really took it to St. Louis. They were fearless. They exploited the weaknesses of the Cardinals, and they just played out of their minds. And they beat a really good Cardinals team. And the Cardinals since then haven't been the same team.
Right. I mean, look what just happened. It's kind of crazy when you think about it, though. With the Cardinals, you never see them fall apart like that. In the last few years, they have and have overall been mediocre. So you just hope that going forward, you can still maintain the status of where you are as one of the better teams of the division, because though the Cardinals fell apart at the end, you know, there's still a lot of talent to be had on that team, and the Brewers are only going to get better. So you got to keep staying up there. I mean, there's not going to be an easier division title for the Cubs again. I really don't feel like than there was in 2016.
Okay, you are the manager of the Cubs. What's your lineup for tomorrow?
Leading off, Murphy, playing second.
I like that.
Batting second, right field, Zobrist. Batting third, Baez, short. Batting fourth, Rizzo, first base. Batting fifth, Bryant, third base. Batting sixth, Schwarber, left field. Batting seven, Hayward, center field. Then you got Contreras catching, and then Quintana, the pitcher. And this is me.
That was my big question: is who are you?
I think you got to go with Contreras. You can argue for Victor Caratini because Victor Caratini has been very good defensively, and honestly, his pitch framing has been very good. And Wilson Contreras, the second half, has been bad at the plate. Bad. But in big games like this, who has the experience? Contreras.
Me too. I see both sides. I probably got the exact same lineup as you, except I have Caratini.
I mean, again, like you said, I could see both arguments. And this is a lineup that I've built based on the fact if they're going to face a righty. So if they're going to face a righty, you're going to have a lefty Hayward in there. You're going to have Schwarber in there. Having Ben Zobrist is a 100% must. So you're going to have to fit him in there along with Daniel Murphy. Murphy's going to be playing second to start. So you could put Ben Zobrist in the outfield while having Schwarber and Hayward out there. And you're going to have Almora on the bench. If it was a lefty, then it would be a little different. Then you'd probably have Almora in center, Zobrist in right, and Ian Happ in there. But with a righty, you want Schwarber in there. You want Hayward in there.
I mean, my hope is that right off the bat, bottom of the first, is that Murphy and Zobrist are able to have long at-bats and both eventually get on base, because that's been ultimately a good Cubs weapon, is long first innings to starting pitchers.
Adam Wainwright the other day.
They did it to exactly what I was going to say is Adam Wainwright. It's like a 32, 34 pitch first inning. And that's the key, is it's not so bad that they take him out, but he's eventually going to have to leave early because that pitch count's getting high and you're playing from behind. And that Milwaukee bullpen is good, but if you get to them early, is how many innings do they have in them?
Well, that's the whole thing. And that's when I said I'm worried about the bullpens, because the Cubs are going to want to be either tied or with the lead going into the sixth inning. because that's when the bullpen starts to come in. You get 2 innings from Josh Hader. You have Jeremy Jeffress. Corey Knebel is good again. If you have to face those 3 guys down, the chances of winning are much, much smaller. So that's why you want to get the lead early and hopefully get to them early. And hopefully what you can do is if you do have to face those guys in a lead or tie situation, like if it's a close game, they may have those guys in there, like a 1 or 2 run game. Hopefully you could just kind of wear them out, you know?
That's the hope, is you do what the Indians did to what's his face?
Chapman.
My God, to roll this Chapman is they wore him out, and Cubs went to him, to that well one too many times, and they got to him, and hopefully that's something the Cubs can do. But it's the Cubs. You're right. In the 6th inning, the Cubs need to have that lead.
Yeah,
I don't even think tie. I think they need that lead.
Yeah, no, I mean it's important to have it at that time. The other question is,
and they're good, and they need Carl Edwards to, to go to hypnotist sometime tonight, because they're gonna need him throwing strikes.
Let's evaluate it again. Carl Edwards Jr. has really struggled lately. You don't have Morrow, you don't have Stroh. My ordered guys and guys I trust right now: number 1, Jesse Chavez. Number 2 is either Justin Wilson or Jorge De La Rosa. And that's a big difference between those guys and Hader, Knebel, and Jeffries. That's a huge difference.
Where's Big Randy go?
Randy Rosario? Well, he's got to be up there. I mean, he's been good overall, but he's never pitched in a situation like this before.
I think he's got the cojones. I think he can do it.
Honestly, right now, I may trust him over Edwards. And this is a guy who was as lights out as it gets in the first half. If we had first half Carl Edwards Jr., that would make all the difference.
If we had first half of the season bullpen period, then yeah, I put all of the money on the Cubs.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
I mean, those guys plus Jesse Chavez and Jorge De La Rosa on top of that. But you don't.
Yeah, it's you could have a bullpen start of just shut down guys.
I mean, think about it. Yeah, you're right.
You have Morrow, Strop, Chavez, Edwards,
Wilson.
Wilson. Yeah, you've got a lot of guys, lefty and righty, that you can go to, and that is just withered.
Oh, one name I forgot to mention that's really key: Steve Cishek. But he has been worn out.
Yeah, I don't trust him, because I think he's got a rubber arm right now.
And we're talking about a guy who has been nails for most of the season. He's been so good, but he has been used so much. You could see the effectiveness slip a little, probably because his arm's tired. Like you said, a rubber arm.
Yeah, I mean, it's not anything wrong with him. I think he's just got a rubber arm right now, and I don't go to him unless you absolutely have to. Is you just let that arm rest, give him as many days off as you can, and hope that the offense comes through so you don't have to use him.
Then you're going to have your guys that you're not going to use if the game is even anywhere close. Brandon Kinsler, Brian Dunson. Not going to use those guys. You do have your expanded roster. Alec Mills pitched several innings today, so I don't think he's really going to be available tomorrow. You have a few other, like Dylan Maples. I don't know if you trust him right now in that kind of situation, so you might put him there. But yeah, I mean, if it's a close game, you got to rely on your big guns that you do have.
One big gun that's got a rested arm that you can really rely on? John Lackey.
I knew you were gonna say that. He's gonna come
John
in.
Lackey.
He's just gonna come in like out of nowhere. They're like, oh yeah, they signed him, and it's technically the regular season, so he was able to do it. He's spitting Shaw up there, and
they just start playing Wild Thing. Wild Thing.
He's coming in on Buttercup. It's like, wait, is that John Lackey? You hear the claps of the coconuts, and you hear the clank clank of the Spurs. You're like, oh my god, he's here.
He comes out not in his jersey, but he's got a t-shirt with cut off sleeves, and it's got Hawk's face on there with a circle and a line through it. And that's on the front, and then Joe West on the back with a circle and a slash through it.
That's funny. Oh god, that would be great.
But
it's going to be a crazy game.
Yeah, I mean, next time we have a show, we're either going to be the saddest, kids ever, or we are going to be on cloud 9. And there's going to be no middle ground there.
Yeah. Because it's going to be a Bears bye week anyway, so there's no game to talk about.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. They'll have nothing else to sue those over. It is just going to be, what did the Cubs do?
Yep. And then hockey season should be starting by then, right? Or close to it.
Pretty close, if not. I have to look at the schedule, but it's got to be close.
Which can be kind of sad on its own, depending on what happens. So we'll see.
So let's move on to the Bears.
Yes.
Now, first I want to just pause for a second because I unknowingly accidentally tapped into a very angry segment of the Twitter universe.
Uh-oh.
The Pat Mahomes fan club.
Oh boy.
So I made a joke tweet, and it was, today, I'm listening, Trubisky, 6 touchdowns, 0 interceptions today. Also to Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, Jimmy G combined today for 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. Hashtag just saying. I know very well that Jimmy Garoppolo is injured. And I know very well that Pat Mahomes did not play today because he's playing tomorrow. I was fully aware of that. I just kind of wanted to throw it out tongue in cheek. And none of the Jimmy Garoppolo or 49ers fans chimed in with, well, Jimmy Garoppolo's hurt. If he was healthy, he would have thrown 19 touchdowns. It was all the Pat Mahomes contingent losing their minds, calling me all kinds of awful names. And I thought they would have got it. It was just a joke tweet.
Well, this is Twitter, so things happen.
Yeah. And they all like to throw around the R word.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they brought their linguists to aid.
All right.
But yeah, I thought that was kind of funny because I just thought it was a throwaway tweet that people would go, and no, it really upset the Pat Mahomes bandwagon.
Well, lesson learned, I guess.
Lesson learned is you do not mess with Pat Mahomes.
No.
But that said, is going into this game, I thought this was going to be a big challenge for the Bears because of the explosive offense that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have put forward so far. I mean, they've been averaging 34 points a game, and their quarterback has averaged over 400 yards a game, averaged 400 some yards and 4 touchdowns every game. I mean, I knew they wouldn't put up those kind of numbers against the Bears, but I thought that they would put up some respectable numbers. And I also knew that their secondary is not very good, but that front 7 of Tampa is pretty solid. So my concern was that they would put up a decent number of points, nothing crazy, but I was going to say like 21, 24 points on offense, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would be able to take the run away from the Bears and force Trubisky to beat them with his arm. And I thought this would end up being like a 24-21 game or 27-24
I'm right there with
type
you.
game.
I thought the same thing.
And boy, I was wrong.
This was, without a doubt, the most entertaining Bears game that I have watched in a very long time. It had a little bit of everything. I mean, lost in this great offensive performance, the Bears continued to just take the ball away with no mercy on defense. Everything was just amazing today.
All right, through one quarter of the season so far, the Bears have 8 interceptions. That's the total amount of interceptions they had for the entire season for the last 3 seasons. So they've already matched their season high for the last 3 years in 4 games. And it should have been one more, which would have been one that made them undefeated if Kyle Fuller catches that one that hits him in the chest.
Right. Yeah, you look back at that and they're 4-0 right now, but they're still first place NFC North, and what you hope is that a game like this can really get Mitch's confidence going. I mean, he was throwing dimes today.
Yeah, absolutely. They started passing early, they kept passing, and they took full advantage of every weakness that Tampa had on defense. And there's people out there, and first I want to backtrack, is I've been pretty harsh on Mitchell Trubisky to this point. And as I've said, I am not one that's I didn't write him off. I didn't say to bench him. I never said that it was a mistake to draft him, because I don't think any of those things are the correct thing. Is I liked the skill set he had, and I just said I wasn't going to be an apologist, and he needed to play better, and I drew out the exact things that he needed to do better, and before I was going to anoint him. And as today, he answered a lot of the questions I had. And he took advantage of that secondary of Tampa Bay. And here's the thing. We knew Tampa Bay does not have a good secondary. But why is that a concern of yours? Why is that going to take away from the victory you had? They were a team that only had 1 loss, and it was a 3-point loss to the Steelers. This was a high-powered offense. You shut them down, and you put up a lot of points on them. It doesn't matter if their secondary is bad. Do you think the New England Patriots go into games and go, well, we don't want people to think that we're only good because we took advantage of a weakness that we found in the opponent? No, they go, we found an advantage or a weakness in the opponent. Let's exploit it and then run up the score and win by a lot of points, so we're not fighting a close one at the end of the game. And that's exactly what the Bears did. They exploited a weakness, and they called plays to get guys wide open, and Mitch hit all of those wide open guys with good passes.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to get wide open. It's another thing to hit him, and that's what he did. You saw some of those throws he made, those deep balls. This is what we've been wanting to see since he started playing for the Bears. You wanted to see his ability to throw downfield. You wanted to see his ability to move. He had some very nice rushing plays in this game. I mean, he did everything great. There were a few overthrows and 1 underthrown, but you know what? Considering he had 6 touchdowns and 154 yards, you're going to excuse a few missed throws because he made so many of them. And what was also great was that they were using everybody. Everybody played a role. You saw great throws to Tariq Cohen. You saw throws to Allen Robinson. You saw some great throws to Trey Burton. They were using the whole offense, and it was working like a symphony, just in perfect rhythm. You saw some of the great blocks that those guys had. I mean, look at Kevin White. That one block he had to allow Cohen to have that great rush play, one of his many, because Cohen had a great game. Everything was working in sync, and the defensive line held up extremely well, I feel. Extremely well.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I kept tweeting out, where's Jordan Howard? Jordan Howard has only carried the ball X number of times. And I know Adam Hogue went after a couple people that said the similar things, but it wasn't a criticism of where they're at, but they're not going to be able to do what they did to the Tampa Bay secondary to, when they're playing New England. They're not going to be able to do that when they play Minnesota. They're not going to be able to do that when they play the Packers. So you're going to need to be able to pound the ball. And I think if you don't establish that run and get Jordan Howard going, because he thrives as he gets more carries. And if you're just giving him one carry this quarter, one carry that quarter, you're not prepping your O-line to dominate the defensive line and punish them as far as, with their dominant run blocking. And you're not giving Jordan Howard the best opportunity to carry the ball for you. And that's a concern. And it's not a concern about this game in particular because you didn't need him. It's just something that you need to make sure that you're able to do. Because if you would have been able to power run the ball, it's another way you would have beat Green Bay in that opening game.
When I was thinking about Jordan Howard not being there, I just kind of wanted to see him in a few plays because I just wanted to be assured that he was okay. I'm like, is he not playing? Like, is he hurt? Like, what's going on here? Even though I didn't see anything on Twitter, I just wanted to make sure he was all right. But, eventually we did see him. Now, the way I saw today's game overall, just looking back at it, I think Nagy does understand his role, even though he hasn't used Jordan Howard exactly the way we've wanted so far. But I think that was just the Bears playing to their game plan, and their game plan was to fry that secondary, and they did. I just think that was part of the plan, and I think you could argue that this was as good, if not the best prepared Bears game from a coaching standpoint that we've seen in quite some time. They were doing everything
on both sides of the ball.
Exactly. So yeah, I just think that was part of their game plan.
Yeah, you saw good wide receiver play. Trey Burton had a great game. And I didn't know that he donates money for every single catch and every single touchdown he has to charity.
Keep feeding him the ball then. That's great.
Yeah, I think it's like I believe I read that it was donating for funds to help fight sex trafficking.
I did hear that. That's big. That's a big issue that people don't talk about a lot.
Yeah, I hope that guy gets 6 touchdowns a game.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, the opening one, it was great.
Yeah, you saw the other wide receivers play really well. Kevin White didn't catch a pass, but man, you said it before. He had a fantastic block, and I love it. I love it that he's not sulking. He's not doing pouting. He's going out there and just playing hard. And I'm happy for him. And I hope that the Bears are able to bring him back for a cheap contract next year, because I still think he's got talent. And if he's going to put blocks like that and play hard, you can't teach that. That's something that just got to be inside of you to come out there and play like that.
If Kevin White doesn't end up being like a huge target, but just ends up being a small playmaker like that, then you know what? I'll gladly take it. I'll gladly take it at this point.
Yeah, because he's at least doing something, not sitting with a broken bone on the sideline.
Exactly. And those little things are important. I mean, you saw what Cohen was able to do with that block. That's important. Again, this offense clicked on all cylinders today. Everything was good. Trubisky made his throws. There was good blocking. People caught the ball.
There was
great.
one hiccup in the offense, and that was Eric Kush didn't play that well. And if you saw, James Daniels went in for a bunch of snaps. And I think that's going to be a move that they make for, this. It's the perfect timing for it. Is Eric Kush hasn't been great. You've got a high draft pick that you're excited about, and you've got your bye week. I think you're going to see Daniels start for the Dolphins game.
Yeah.
And if that's the worst thing you can come up with is you had one guy, I wouldn't even say struggle. He didn't have a great game, but against a pretty good defensive front of Tampa, I'll take that. That's the one weakness.
Honestly, the only thing that I think went wrong today was the Akeem Hicks thing. And that wasn't so much for today because the game was pretty much over by that point. But you would really hate to see him miss a game, the next one.
Yeah, let's talk about that. It really sucks that it happened. And it really sucks that there's no good view of what happened.
Right, they showed it on Fox. I'm like, what am I looking at?
Yeah, it's from a weird angle from the other side of the field. I saw somebody blow it up, but it's so fuzzy that I can't really see what's going on. And I've seen tweets from people that were there that said he just bumped into him while he was shoving somebody else. And if that's the case, then you wish that there was film of it, because I don't think that's a suspend. If you kicked him out of the game, I think he probably gets a fine, but no suspension, because you're like, okay, well, he bumped into a guy that didn't know was there during something. But if he actually just turned and shoved the ref, then you're kind of glad that there's not film of it, because you can try to downplay it a little bit. But Olin Kreutz tweeted out basically a meh, that's what the ref gets kind of tweet.
Yeah, I've seen quite a bit of that.
So I don't know what to think because I didn't see it, but Akeem Hicks is a really smart guy and a veteran.
He's not like that.
And he's not like that. He should know better. And, hopefully he doesn't get a suspension.
Yeah. If he doesn't get a suspension, then you forget this whole thing happened and it's not a big deal.
Yeah. Hopefully he goes up after the game and to the ref and says, sorry, my bad, and tells the league, what happened, heat of the moment, accidentally bumped into him, didn't do it on purpose, apologized after, and didn't argue getting kicked out, and that ends it all. Just eat the crow and come in with your tail between your legs, and hopefully that ends it.
Another big strength of this game for the Bears was, speaking of, while we're on this topic of penalties and whatnot, another great disciplined game by the Bears. Big improvement from last week. The first few weeks, they were really good with that. Last week, not so much. This week, did a great job. And Mitchell Trubisky did a great job of causing some infractions, too, that helped them.
Absolutely. He that cadence was really good. And
it was awesome.
And they had a Tampa team that knew that they had to get to the quarterback if they were going to stop the Bears offense, which is crazy to think about, stopping the Bears offense. And they just jumped off sides. How many times? I think they had more false starts. More encroachments and offsides penalties than the Bears had total penalties. I'd have to go back and look, but I bet it's true or pretty darn close.
The only penalties I can think of during a play, there was an illegal block in the back on one of the punts. There was also that ticky-tacky pass interference call, but the game was already over at that point. Those are the only flags. No, there was one fall. I know they had one false start in the red zone, but they still scored anyway. So those were the only 3 flags on the Bears that I could remember during the play. Obviously, the Akeem Hicks thing was after the play, but other than that, those are the only ones I could really think of.
But on the defensive side of the ball, is they just got after the quarterback and they created, it's the thing is everybody wrote off Fitzmagic as, well, he's doing all the things wrong. You know what? Is if you've got Khalil Mack just bearing down on you and the pocket is collapsing from every side and there's good coverage, taking away the deep routes that you're expecting to be open, what do you expect the guy to do?
He's not mobile. Fitzpatrick is not mobile at all. I mean, Khalil Mack, once again, he had a great game, but that's no surprise.
The guy is a human cheat code.
He really is.
Like, he's just a cheat code. It's just unfair. And I still thank my lucky stars that John Gruden is an idiot and traded him away. And I'm never gonna give any sort of benefit of the doubt to John Gruden, because all he had to do was pay this guy and he would have showed up and been a stud for the Oakland Raiders. And you know what? He chose not to. He thought he could manufacture pass rush another way, and he can gladly have those 2 first-round picks because we have a guy that's making our good defense into an elite defense. There is no defense in the NFL that's anywhere near as good as the Bears. People go, well, the Vikings.
They haven't been good.
How they got lit up by Buffalo and the Rams. And then you go, well, what about the Rams defense? The Rams got lit up by the Vikings. I mean, they won a shootout, but they got lit up by the Vikings, and their 2 cornerbacks are hurt. One's out for the season, and I don't know how long Marcus Peters is out for.
Yeah.
So who is as good? They're the Bears.
And who's getting turnovers at the same rate the Bears are?
I mean, it's unreal. And I saw some negative tweets because when the second half, when Jameis Winston came in, he had some success against the Bears, but it was basically garbage time. The Bears were up by like 35 points at that point. 35 points. The Bears weren't going at him with the same ferocity, and he was dinking and dunking. And the touchdown that he scored was aided because they missed a blatant hold. I mean, not just a hold. They tackled Khalil Mack. He was going to get the sack, and they just an absolute gangbuster sack with nobody there, and the guy tackled him, and they didn't call it, and that led to the big play before the touchdown. Had they either called that or the guy would have let him go and he got the sack, that ends that scoring drive. I mean, maybe they go for a field goal, but there's no touchdowns. And they had another drive that got aided because Khalil Mack missed a sack. That doesn't happen very often.
Right. I mean, when Winston was in, they still had several turnovers. You saw the hit by Mack that, as he threw, that was intercepted. They still did a lot of good things against Winston. It's just by the time they scored their one little dinky touchdown, the game was way over. It didn't matter.
And people are asking, what's wrong with Leonard Floyd? Nothing. Are you watching him play? If you're watching the stat sheets, he doesn't look like he's playing well. But because you have so many talented pass rushers led by Khalil Mack, they're dropping that guy into coverage. He's playing the run and dropping into coverage. I mean, look at that huge pass breakup he had today. The guy is out there covering people.
Yeah. He didn't make a lot of noise on the stat sheet, but you know what? It's not like he was terrible.
No, I mean, if you look at Pro Football Focus, they rank him as, I thought he was like the third, for the first 3 games, he was like the third best edge rusher in football. Khalil Mack, obviously the best. He, from every other metric not on the score sheet, he's doing phenomenally.
Yeah, I have no complaints today. None.
And what's crazy is Prince Amukamara. Well, first of all, Kyle Fuller played another fantastic game, which means he's played 4 fantastic games minus 2 plays. And Prince Amukamara has been really, really good this year. He was out, that's part of the reason I was nervous, is you're starting Kevin Tolliver, who's an undrafted rookie, and you're starting him against the highest scoring offense in football, against a guy, covering a guy that averages 26 yards a catch. And Tolliver looked really good. I mean, he looked really good. It was one play he didn't, he had a rookie mistake, but other than that, he was pretty darn good.
Yeah, he was.
I mean, Fuller looked fantastic. Bryce Callahan looked fantastic. Tolliver looked very good. Eddie Jackson looked great.
Yeah, Eddie, that's a guy that I don't think we talk about enough.
He looked great. Possibly the weakest link again in this defense was Roquan Smith, and he had a good game too. I mean, there was a couple of plays that he missed, but he's also a guy that missed all of training camp. And when you say there was a weak link on this team, it was a team that absolutely dominated the highest scoring team in football and held the quarterback who had 3 games in a row with over 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. You held him to no touchdowns and like 120 yards passing. If that's the weak link, you take it. You take it every day.
Yep. Again, this is the best I felt about a Bears game in a very long time. Because, every win, we're like, okay, this went good. This didn't go so well. It's not the case today.
And you've got a bye week. And I know Trey Burton was quoted as saying this is a terrible time for a bye week. It is and it isn't. Sure, you want to ride this momentum, but after 3 underwhelming games from Mitch Trubisky, you had a fantastic game. I mean, quarterback rating wise, he was damn near perfect. I think he had like 154 quarterback rating. That's like Aaron Rodgers numbers.
Yeah, that's really good.
And you want to build on that is you give him 2 weeks to prepare, watch that tape, look at tape of the Dolphins, come up with a game plan so you can have another game like that. And you get, here's the thing is people are wanting to compare Pat Mahomes and Mitch Trubisky. And it's not a fair comparison. Sure, they were both in the same class, but Pat Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith, who has he had the career that you would want from a guy that was drafted first overall? No. Has he had an absolutely, solid NFL career? Yes. And you got to sit behind him for an entire year, learn the playbook, and then you step in with an absolute offensive genius, and the whole rest of your offense has been playing in that offensive scheme that's been established. They've all played at least 2 seasons in that offensive scheme. So you just step in to be a cog in a well-oiled machine that exists. Mitch Trubisky played under John Fox, and a guy that I don't think has ever watched a football game before as an offensive coordinator. He was handcuffed. He steps in now with a brand new system and no players have been in that system before. So you still got Matt Nagy, building the machine. You've got all the cogs are new in that machine. And you've got a quarterback that's basically essentially a rookie, didn't get to sit behind anybody and learn behind anybody. And so it's a hard comparison to make. But you are starting to see how this will work and what it's going to look like when Mitch Trubisky figures it out and the game slows down.
The athleticism and talent is clearly there. It just has to translate.
Yeah, and you're going to have hiccups along the way. He's not going to throw 6 touchdowns and no interceptions and lead you to 48 points every game. There's going to be struggles. He's going to throw an interception. He's going to make a bad play. He's going to miss an open receiver. He's going to make a bad read. And it's just, my thing is, he's just got to keep improving. He can't keep making the same mistakes, and he has to be able to learn from the film that he has on himself.
And like I said, I hope that this game is a real big confidence builder for him. You see what he can do. He saw what he can do. He felt it the whole game. Keep that up. I feel like that a mental state of mind like that can go a long way, especially for a young kid like him. So you really hope that this game is kind of a big stepping stone for him and not just one great performance.
Absolutely. And, as far as the bye is, you get an extra week for him to watch the film and see all the things he did right, practice, incorporate some more plays and wrinkles into that offense, and prepare for the Dolphins. It gives you an extra, now you have 2 more weeks to heal up Prince Amukamara, and so to make your defense even better.
And that's a key piece going forward, Prince Amukamara.
Absolutely. And this Dolphins team looked like a juggernaut until this week. So I still don't think they're as good as their record was, but I don't think they're anywhere near as bad as they were today. So you're going to have to come in there and play them. And
that's what the Dolphins do, though. They either look great or they look terrible.
And you just hope that it's funny because it's going to be an offensive or a head coach / offensive coordinator who knows the defensive coordinator well and vice versa. And it's going to be who's the better mind on their side of the ball and who's got the better talent. And I'm hoping that Khalil Mack is the best talent on either side of the ball. And, they make the Dolphins pay.
Yeah. That's going to be something that we'll be thinking about for 2 weeks. It kind of sucks that, the Bears are doing all this great stuff and it's now we have to wait 2 weeks to watch them again. But, that's how the bye week works.
It would have been nice if they had the 2 weeks to prepare for New England.
Oh, definitely. And you know what? I don't think we're going to have the same John Fox problems where they had 2 weeks to prepare and they looked completely unprepared last year,
No, you're not going to have that situation.
Not with Matt Nagy, no.
Yeah, absolutely not. And, the Bears are creating an atmosphere where winning is good, with taking cues from the Cubs playbook as far as their dance party after wins, and just creating a positive environment where guys want to show up to work and guys are excited to win. It's not just a paycheck. They're trying to do things. That's fantastic. And that's building a winning culture.
Yeah, it's a huge step forward. I mean, you see the way these guys are acting on social media, the way they're interacting with each other, joking around. You see them going on the Snapchats, the Instagram. You see this stuff in the locker room. You're already seeing this culture change for the better. You really are. And I just feel like the players are playing more excited than the Bears have played in a long time. It seemed like for many years, it was a burden to play for the Bears and everyone just did it because it was their job. Now it seems like they're legit enjoying themselves, and that's big.
And it's going forward for the next couple weeks. It's the part of the schedule that going into the season, we assumed was going to be the easy portion where the Bears would get whatever wins that they were going to get. They would get them now. I mean, most of us probably before the season assumed they would beat Arizona, they would lose to Seattle, lose to Tampa, lose to Green Bay, and be 1-3. And their 3-1 should have been 4-0. They've got the Dolphins next in 2 weeks, which is a very winnable game. They've got a Patriots team who had a great game this week, but have not been fantastic, and they're really struggling as far as moving the ball on offense. And Tom Brady is not mobile. So do you win that game? I don't know. I still think it's a very, very tough win.
Any game against Tom Brady is going to be tough, but I think that there are enough weaknesses that the Bears could exploit.
So it's going to be a good game. But Dolphins, winnable. Patriots, it's going to be a tough one. Then you get the Jets, the Bills, and the Lions. That's a nice stretch if you're the Bears. That's a stretch where you can really pad your record.
Yeah, and it just goes to show that a lot of what a possible playoff scenario is going to rely on them winning later in the season, because that's when they play those key division games.
Yeah, because then you get into the Lions, the Vikings, and then the Lions again in 3 consecutive weeks. And then you get which hopefully is a cushion game, like an easy one with the Giants. Then it's the Rams, which is going to be a real tough.
That is going to be one of the most interesting matchups of the year, I think.
And then back-to-back Rams, then the Packers, then the 49ers, which you hope is an easy one because Garoppolo is done for the season, and it's one of the last games of the season, and you hope they just start packing it in. Then you wrap it up with the Vikings.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one to end the season, but you got to get all the wins you can. And the nice thing is the Bears, coming into the season, expectation-wise, they have nothing to lose. So, they should be pretty loose.
Yeah, I mean, they're loose. They already were a good defense, and guys are just putting in that extra gear. And, partially you can chalk that up to watching Khalil Mack and trying to having him elevate your game, because he's working so hard and performing so well that you want to elevate your game to mirror that, partially because he's so good and demands all the attention on him that it's leaving more one-on-one opportunities for other guys, partially because of just creating a better defense and a faster defense overall. And being in that system for another year, is the things on defense are looking really good. Really, they've only had a handful of hiccups all season long. Those 2 drives with the Cardinals and a couple of drives with the Green Bay game. And that's against Aaron Rodgers. That's, he's one of the best to ever play the game. But, for the most part, they have just absolutely manhandled everybody. And all these teams that the Bears are playing have absolute severe weaknesses. And, can the Bears lose all of those games? Sure. If Mitch has hiccups along the way, or, they turn the ball over. Absolutely. Key injuries. But they've got a defense that is able to shut down pretty much, out of all the games that they have left, the Rams and the Packers are the only 2 that you worry about, being able to shut down. Maybe the Vikings, but you saw that a makeshift defense on the Cowboys, shut down the Lions pretty well. Buffalo just is other than that Vikings game has been terrible. The Giants just look dreadful. If you can stop Saquon Barkley, then you won that game.
That's another game you got to take advantage of that secondary.
Oh, absolutely. And the 49ers, they just nothing special. So
they lost Jimmy Garoppolo. Their defense isn't that good.
But luckily, everyone talks about how they ripped us off and made us a laughing stock. But we're a laughing stock in first place.
I'll take it for now, definitely.
But it feels good. It's going to feel good tomorrow to go into work with a Bear shirt.
I'm going to be too nervous about the Cubs game. I'll be honest. Going into work tomorrow. I'm going to be wearing my Cubs stuff.
What time is the game tomorrow?
12.
That's good because I'm going to be at work and I can't listen to it because I don't have a radio at work and they block me streaming it. So I'm going to be able to check my phone every so often and get updates. It makes me less likely to be active nervous.
Yeah, the thing is, if it was at night, I'd be nervous at work all day, where at least if it's happening, I know what's going on. Yeah.
And then by the time you go home, you know how you feel and you can deal accordingly. But if it's a night game, you're all day long, you're nervous, and then you're nervous, until the game starts, and then you're nervous all the way until bedtime. And if they win, you're like, I got to get up. I got to go to bed so I can get up for work.
Mm-hmm.
And, you don't get to enjoy it. But this way, like if they win, they'll be winning right around the time I'm going home from work. So I can be excited and spend the rest of the night being happy.
Exactly. That's exactly how I feel. I do have one more last thing to say about the Bears game. And I'm sure you'll agree with me. And I'm sure every Bears fan listening to this will agree with me on this point. It is so good to see Soldier Field just alive again. It is so good to hear the roar of the crowd at Soldier Field again. It's good to see Soldier Field jam-packed again. It's really good to just have the Bears be a conversation in the city because this is a Bears town. It's been for a long time. But you know what? In recent years, the amount of apathy towards this team has made it seemingly less. And you saw plenty of games towards the ends of the seasons the past few years be half empty. No one's into it. No one really cares. We're seeing a loud and active crowd again at Soldier Field, and I just think it's a great thing to see.
Yeah, and I tweeted this out, but I'm 41 years old. I've been watching the Bears as far back as I can remember. And I know this probably sounds like the beginning of Goodfellas, but I can't remember a time when I saw the defense be this dominant and the offense clicking like this. Maybe some of those games in 85. But I mean, it's been so long. I got all choked up because this is what we've been wanting for ages, is an offense to match the defense. And there was a period during Trestman when we seemed like we were going in the right direction on offense, but the defense was just absolutely woeful. Under Lovie Smith you had a pretty solid defense. And they were just terrible on offense. And along the way, you've had a lot of good defenses and no offenses. And finally, I know I've ridden Mitch Trubisky pretty hard, but that's because I have high expectations and I'm not going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I want him to be able to stand on his own merits, and rather than me have to prop him up. And he had a fantastic game, and hopefully he can continue to build on this and you start seeing what he's capable of all the time, but you're going to see some stumbles along the way and some regressions, but it's up to Matt Nagy to keep him propped up until, he's able to stand on his own. And if the Bears offense can keep looking like this, and, this is just a portion of their offense, is once this is a well-oiled machine, you keep that defense going like that. This is our dream.
Yep. You just got to keep hoping it keeps building. I mean, right now, there's a lot of good things to see. And you know what? Right now, if they're winning games, no matter what, just enjoy that fact.
Absolutely. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to talk about.
Nope, I think I'm good.
All right. Well, I think this is going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please check us out on social media at ShyFanPat1, at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com. Follow us on social or subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, or the TuneIn app. Please, if you like the show, share it with a friend that also likes Chicago sports. That's how we grow this audience. And thank you so much for listening. And go Cubs and bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like Denver New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes.
Bears 31 to -7.
The Bears.
Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.